face, B. I can't. Look at the look on his face, right? He looks like he's very concerned. I'm very concerned about my Chicagoan peoples. I'm very, very concerned because, I'm very concerned about them and their welfare and their health and their money and their pockets and their life. I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about that. Give me a break, B. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Conservative Poet with me, Amania Saluste. So, in today's video, we're going to have a little visit with our good friend, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. So, he had a press conference and had a couple of Q&A questions, and they asked questions and he answered questions the way he wanted to answer, not really answering anybody's questions, but had pre-text, talking points ready to go. So you ask a question and you really don't get an answer. And so it's like the Karine Jean-Pierre, it's like the Karine Jean-Pierre version, the press secretary, the affirmative press secretary. So he's being asked questions about the illegals and, what do you think? Maybe is it time for you to tell the buses to turn around and not continue to come? What are these pastors doing? What is this program that you're doing? Questions are being asked, but no answer is actually being given to the actual question, but he just dances around it. He pulls out that Obama and just tangles around the questions. So we're going to look at that today, and it's going to be good. So let's do it. The wokest mayor in America, Mayor Brandon Johnson, who just does not want to truly admit that we have a problem. Unlike Eric Adams in New York, who's saying we got a problem and I needs help. We need a problem. Brandon Johnson says, well, yeah, there is a crisis and we could use some federal or some state dollars to combat the crisis. That's all he got. That's all he got. He's got no smoke. He's got nothing. That's all he's got. And so we're going to take a peek into this here Q&A and yeah, let's do it. Before we continue with the video, here is a brief word from the sponsor of our video.
Mayor, can you please share some specific steps you guys talked about to address the racial divisions that have been, heated it's because of the migrant influx, and like, is that like knocking on doors? Is that events? Is that, fake events? Like, what kind of specific steps are you going to take to heal?
Yeah, well, what I think the first thing is that we have to tell the entire truth and the entire story, because this notion that it's only black people.
Before we move on, the panel behind him. Look at this one. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if this is the NAACP folks or if these are the black pastors that's supposedly taking in all of the illegals. But yeah, they're standing strong behind Brandon Johnson.
Who are concerned about the migrant crisis is not true. So some of the conversation around this division, there are individuals who want to score political points, to sow these negative seeds, to get us fighting one another. But in order for me to have an entire commission dedicated to reparations, as well as an entire office dedicated to reentry, a dedicated revenue stream for the unhoused, that requires black, brown, and white votes. In fact,
He said a dedicated revenue stream for the unhoused. I mean, just the sentence alone. A dedicated revenue stream for the unhoused. Homeless people, more than likely on drugs, more than likely drunks, again, a majority, is who's on the street. We all know this. This is not, hate speech or anything. These are the truth. The people that's on the street, the majority of them are people who are there and they don't mind being there because the unhoused will get money from Brandon Johnson.
so it's actually demonstrated that even the things that black folks are concerned about, that it turns out that other members of city council agree. Look, the whole impetus behind what's happening at the border is for extremism in this country to plant these seeds of negativity to divide our city. And
So, whose fault is it? I'm going to say he didn't use the word, but as we know, this is where he's at. It's hardworking Americans who say, you know what? I prefer to feel safe at home. I prefer to have a safety net around the country where we don't have certain people coming in, you know, to come in here to rob us, to rape us, to kill us in some instance. And of course, they bring in drugs, crime, and everything else. And of course, Chicago has more crime than it knows what to do with. But leave it to Brandon Johnson to say anybody who speaks out against what's happening at the border, you have to be some sort of bigot, right? Or you're just dividing the country. You're just talking hate speech and these things. Not that there's a true concern about all of these people pouring in, millions of them pouring in. No, Brandon Johnson. No. No, 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 friend. No.
And so what we are doing as a city is what this city did when they elected me. Is that we surround ourselves around our values. We speak to our values by passing paid time off, by abolishing sub-minimum wage, which of course is going to benefit black and brown people, and that we're going to continue to do what we do best, and that's organize our communities around the values that make the city of Chicago the greatest city in the world.
Yo, did he just say all that? Did he just say that we're going to surround ourselves with our values and we're going to make Chicago the greatest city in the world that it is? Really? My friend Brandon J? Have you seen the young scholars around town? Yeah, I'm sure you have. And all those people behind you have seen it too. And these pastors for sure. How is it that the pastors themselves don't come out here and have press conferences in reference to the shooting that goes on every weekend. Pastors, why aren't y'all talking about that? Pastors, why aren't y'all coming out here talking to these women who are out here showing their derriere and just being all kinds of promiscuous and so on? Why aren't you talking about those good book values then, right? Why aren't you trying to guide your people to the Lord? No, that's not what you're trying to do. But today you want to stand strong behind Brandon Johnson, and for what? An opportunity to what? Be on television? Yeah, that's it.
Mayor, you're here with a number of black pastors, and one of the issues that we've seen happen or not happen is black churches stepping up to take in some of these migrants. Did your discussions today include any discussions about black churches stepping up, and are you asking pastors to do that part in this situation?
The beauty of this moment is that I don't have to ask people who are tethered to a faith that's bigger than a government to step up and do right by people. There are black leaders that are stepping.
At first I thought he had said a faith bigger. I thought he had said a God bigger than government. But now I hear it's a faith bigger than government. So yeah, what else would you expect? These people believe that government is their God. And sure, they have faith. They have faith in something. I don't know in what. But government is their God. And so therefore, I'm very surprised to think that he would even say there's anything bigger than government, because government is their Lord and Savior. And the king of that is none other than Sleepy Joe Biden. I'm just saying.
Stepping up and leaning in and supporting migrants in this moment. There are black pastors who are stepping up and making sure that the dollars that are appropriated for violence prevention, that the council is prepared to vote for that. The whole work around reentry, Reverend Marshall Hatch has an entire village on the west side of Chicago called the My Alpha Project that is dedicated to making sure that individuals who are formerly incarcerated get another chance at economic security.
What about the migrants?
Tell you the sheep behind it is this woman's sheep especially. You see her? Yeah. Get him, Brandon. You got it. That's it. Yep, that's what we doing. We doing some good work. We doing some good things. Yeah. Tell him, brother.
You had any discussions about
What I'm saying is that black leaders in this city have always stood up for what is right. They're doing what they've always done, which is leaning in and supporting not just this crisis, but every single crisis that this city has had to endure.
That's BS. Because if these pastors were doing what they were supposed to be doing, Chicago and the black community would not be where it is right now today. If these pastors were really taking leadership roles, right, and really cultivating and being in the community and really talking to these people about the gospel, right, about Jesus, about faith and all of these things, we wouldn't have this problem. And my whole thing is, it's not just in Chicago, it's everywhere. Look at all of these liberal cities. They all have the same problem. Godlessness. Everybody's hooked on drugs. Everybody's hooked on booze. Everybody's hooked on cigarettes. Everybody's hooked on sex because they keep having it and they keep, a whole lot of babies keep coming. But yet, they're also killing a whole lot of babies too. So if these pastors were really out here in the community doing what they're supposed to be doing, Chicago would be thriving. The black people would be thriving. So the black pastors, the pastors that you're lifting up in this moment during this crisis, yeah, they've failed the people and everybody knows it.
What we don't ever have to debate is where the black church stands when it comes to justice. And this situation is no different. I've answered your question.
I haven't heard you answer the question about whether you.
Which part of my question are you not understanding?
I'm
What
not
part of my
understanding
answer that you're not
whether
understanding?
you've asked them to step up
What
and
I'm
help
saying
out
is
the
that they've
migrants.
already done it, is what I'm saying. They're already done it.
I don't understand where.
You don't understand that they've already done it?
What have they done? That's what he's asking. What have they done? What are we doing here? What are they going to do? You're not answering. You're saying they've already done it. But what is it that they've done, man? I mean, these people, again, they tango around the questions and they make you, oh, it's you that's stupid, dumb. It's not me avoiding your question. It's not me pretending I don't understand. It's not me. No, I'm not going to leave my script to go on a different route. I'm going to stay right here, focus on where my answer at. And my answer is they've been doing the work.
Can we move on? Because apparently, I've said it repeatedly, let me just, I'm clear, that black pastors have already stepped up in this moment. Of course, we're having conversations about how the federal government and the state government has to do more. But I wanted to be...
Whoa! Did he just say that the federal government has to do more? Is he calling out Joe Biden, saying that Joe Biden has to do more? Is that what you're saying, Brandon Johnson? The federal government has to do more. What does that mean exactly? Can you go into detail? Can you help a sister out? Can you help out the Chicagoans? Can you help us out? Understand what you're talking about. Are you saying that Joe Biden has been failing the people? He hasn't been sending you any money? He hasn't been doing a good job securing the border? You need Joe Biden to step up and do better in this moment? Is that what you're saying, Brandon Johnson? Yeah, picture that.
Emphatically clear, because if you're not hearing it, I want you to hear it clear. Black pastors are stepping up as they always have stepped up.
I do have a different question, but I am going to back off my colleague in saying I think he's just asking how many churches have taken infants. Our church has taken families. That's it.
Sure. Well, a number of them have stepped up, and we're going to continue to push for more of them to step up.
All right,
Not a whole lot has stepped up, but some of them are there for the press conference moment, but not a whole lot of them has stepped up. Yeah.
I have a question on a different topic. Can you talk a little bit about your pick as the new health commissioner, why she was chosen, and why you believe she will make a better health commissioner than Allison Arwady?
Well, as you know, public health is an important part of my administration, and as I've said repeatedly, our work to pass treatment, not trauma, was an essential part of my campaign.
Pass treatment, not trauma. I don't know if I'm familiar with that talking point. Past treatment, not trauma. It sounds like it rolls off your tongue, and that I could hear it at protests. Past treatment, not trauma. Past treatment, not trauma. But he's very passionate about it.
Campaign, and we've delivered on that promise. Opening up mental health clinics, which were shut down by a couple of administrations ago, that we are obviously moving with expedition to make sure that public health reaches every single neighborhood.
You better put places and systems in place for all those people getting shot morning, noon, and night. Those clinics would definitely help with those bullet removals. I'm just saying. Gotta make sure, gotta put the tax money to make it work proper. Yeah, they have mental issues as well, but you got bodies lining up everywhere. Yeah, you gotta take them somewhere to get rid of the bullets, or you gotta put more mortuaries in to put the bodies in the ground. I'm just saying.
Ige is an incredible human being. Quite frankly, she really imbibes the collaborative, competent, compassionate spirit that I've said from the very beginning.
AKA she's woke and she's on board, and that's why she's been hired, right? That's why she's in charge now, because she's woke, she's on board with my agenda.
That leadership in my administration has to imbibe. And the vote and the confidence that she has from community leaders as well as key stakeholders that understand that public health has to be, a system of care, that she represents the values in which the people of Chicago want to see in their public health commission.
Mayor, in addition to what you said a moment ago about the efforts of clergy stepping up to address the migrant crisis and your calls repeatedly on the state and federal government to step in for help, given all of that, is it time for your office to acknowledge that the city is struggling to address the needs of this crisis?
I don't know which part of my time in 6 months as mayor that we have not acknowledged that we cannot bear the responsibility alone. That
No, it's for you to acknowledge that there is a problem. That's his question. Is it time for you to acknowledge that is not that we're taking No, we have a problem, and you say Joe Biden, we have a problem, but no, that's not what you want to say.
this responsibility, of course, has placed a tremendous amount of stress on families. That has always been.
It's the look on his face. I can't. Look at the look on his face, right? He looks like he's very concerned. I'm very concerned about my Chicagoan peoples. I'm very, very concerned because, I'm very concerned about them and their welfare and their health and their money and their pockets and their life. I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about that. Give me a break, B.
Acknowledged.
But I guess specifically at our juncture now, I mean, we're entering winter months. It's getting colder. I think people are curious about what is the assessment of the proposed base camps. I mean, I don't know that people have seen tents pop up or things happening. So
We have
guess
stood up.
my
Yeah,
question
I
is-
think I understand your question. I think
Yeah.
I understand the second part of your
Sure.
your question. Is that what are we doing in this moment?
Right, as the city
Yeah.
moving quickly enough to address this crisis.
Well, look, I've stood up a brand new shelter every single week since I've been in office.
Wait, did he say he's put in a brand new shelter a week since he's been in office? Is that what you said? Every week you got an agenda to put in a new shelter for these illegals. And then every weekend the blacks are shooting up the city. Man, he was a bad mayor.
That we renegotiated a contract with a staffing agency that I inherited to reduce costs. We put out RFPs for support for individuals who can help manage facilities, as well as provide food and support. But what we can't lose sight of is that the plan that I have put forth and I've carried out, that it requires investments from the state and the federal government. I've said that repeatedly. I pushed hard for national policy to reflect the demands of this moment. I said from the very beginning that foreign policy, particularly.
What he just said there, God, I wish I he wants federal government to, in this moment, to realize that we have a crisis in this moment. I need federal government to, gosh, let's just play it over because I can't remember.
I pushed hard for, national policy to reflect the demands of this moment. I said from the very beginning that.
Okay, there it is. He's pushed hard for Joe Biden to reflect on this moment. So again, this is him treading the waters very, very nicely and not calling out anybody, not saying President Joe Biden or anything like that. It's national policy. And this is where the problem is. But yet, you can't call it out for what it is. You can't call it out for what it is. Because they'll Eric Adams you.
Foreign policy, particularly the sanctions that have been placed on Central and South America, has exacerbated the economic turmoil that these countries have had to endure. As a result of bad foreign policy, I'm grateful that President Biden has eased those sanctions. It has caused some level of stability around the border, and they have to still do more. And
So what he's saying, in a nutshell, if I understand, that the reason why we have all these people coming here is because we've put sanctions on these places, and their economics is not so good. It's not, they're not really, producing there. Joe Biden, right, has been in office now, right, for, is it 3 years? Yeah. And so day one, right, the illegals started coming. Day one. They were ready during the election. Day one, the inauguration, day one, these people started coming. So in 3 years, and they're coming more and more and more and more. So he lifted those sanctions up a long time ago, right? So how is it that in 3 years you're still getting boatloads of people, millions of people are still coming, but yet it's the sanctions that was under Trump that's still causing issues in these countries, that's these people are still coming seeking asylum? Come on. Ugh.
And so my work continues as we continue to administer our plan to remove people out of police stations who are sleeping on floors, pregnant women and children, and putting them into.
How are these women getting pregnant in the police station, on the floor, sleeping on floors? If I remember correctly, how the tango goes, how are these people having intercourse? How are they having sex out there? They ain't got nothing, but they can still
Temporary shelter that gives them a little bit more dignity.
Is there any update on the 18 California agreement that the city recently signed? What would you say to Alderman Julia Ramirez? She claimed for more transparency, and residents has been protesting that they don't want migrants over there.
Well, we continue to have conversations with alders across the city, and my job is to make sure that we are identifying sites that can ultimately help us deal with this crisis. But make no mistake about it, that the plan that we have in place requires the state and the federal government to lean in to provide additional support. Now, my administration has been very clear that without the state and federal government leaning in, providing more financial support for our city, that the sustainability of this operation just becomes that much more arduous.
What about the agreement on the environmental issues over there?
So I'm glad you mentioned the environmental dynamic that I'm dealing with as mayor. It's why I've reinstituted the Department of the Environment. It's why we push for this cumulative impact study. Quite frankly, it's why we've been that much more thorough on these sites to make sure that whatever environmental dynamics that exist there, if it's not suitable, we obviously will have to address that. Unfortunately, environmental justice has not been the prevailing form of leadership in this city for a very long time.
Environmental justice has not been, at top of mind in our area. We have not really done the work with environmental justice. But now that I'm here, we're going to make sure I'm putting systems in place for environmental justice.
My administration has taken this head on, and I'm confident that, during this crisis, as we continue to explore other sites, that if environmental hazards do materialize, then of course it's incumbent upon my administration, as I've committed to do, is to address it.
I have another question. Do you have any information about migrants from Venezuela being deported from Gary, Indiana airport to Venezuela?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're moving on. I don't know nothing about illegals being deported because I ain't deporting them.
I did find it interesting that Pastor Gordon told us he was on the trip, since we never knew he went on the trip, since we were never given a list of anyone who went on the trip. Good to hear it now, but it would have been nice to hear it before. But that's my comment, not my question.
Yo, it's his look. He's like, what is she talking about? It's just, this guy is really deceptive, yo. He's just look wicked. Doesn't he just look wicked?
My question is, there are reports of electricity being installed at the vacant lot at 115th and Halsted today. So why is there no official announcement that a tent city is going to come when you've said you haven't made a decision, but yet there's electricity being put in?
Here's what I've said. Whether it's that particular site or the site on 38th in California, that we have assessed both of those sites, and what needed to happen last week happened, where there was an additional step to make sure that all voices were heard that have had desires for that particular section of the city to be invested in. Now, throughout this entire process, I've had conversations with community members, and the
Yeah.
community.
Oh, it's giving me a headache. His words, everything that he says is very, very precise, and what he's communicating. He's not going off his script. Everything is very, very meticulous and precise.
Particularly in the 21st ward, wanted to have yet another conversation, and we did that. And we have not made it. We've always made it clear that the whole point of acquiring that land was not just for the economic development that we will see at the end of this crisis, at least this iteration of the crisis, but the whole impetus behind that particular agreement was so that development would happen there. So I've always been very clear about that particular site, that it will ultimately become a space where the people of the 21st Ward will have an opportunity to grow and develop, but it also will be a site like many other sites that we are assessing to help us deal with this particular crisis.
So when will the tents go in?
So, the process by which these tents are erected, it's actually quite thorough. So, as we continue to, again, not just assess the sites around environmental justice, but the entire capacity that these sites will ultimately be asked to carry. It's incumbent upon my administration to be as thorough as possible, and so I'm moving with expediency. Again, the ultimate goal is to remove people out of police stations and get them off the floors of police stations, and of course remove them from outside. So thank you all very much.
Would you ever consider turning?
See? She said it, but that doesn't answer the question. He went on this whole, conversation, and again, no answers to your question. All right, this video is almost done. I almost gave up, but we're going to push it through. I've got about 3 more minutes, and then we're going to be done because my head is already hurting from this nonsense.
The buses around. When the buses arrive here saying, you know what, there's no more room at the end. We do no longer have the capacity to take anyone else. Maybe it's time to turn the buses around.
Look, do we need better immigration policy in this country? Everybody recognizes that. And I've said this repeatedly, that foreign policy and national policy has not done its due diligence to meet this particular crisis, but the crisis that existed well beyond this moment. And here's the part that's actually worth.
So no, we're not going to turn the buses around. We're not going to say anything about returning the buses. No, is the answer to that question. But he's going to tap and dance and maneuver his way, tango and zumba and rumba and chicha and whatever else. Tap dance around the questions.
Reporting, I think, it's my opinion, is that when 30,000 Ukrainians arrived in this city who were seeking refuge here, there was no discussion. None. There are more Ukrainian, just give me a second, all right? There are more Ukrainian refugees here in the city of Chicago than asylum seekers. And
problem, friend, is that these people are not asylum seekers. These people are just walking into the country because they hate their country, or they don't like their country, or they don't want to be in their country, or and they think, okay, it's going to be better here in America, so everybody's coming to America. Everybody's coming to America, not because they're seeking asylum. Okay? And those people in, where was it? In Ukraine? Those people, Joe Biden sent money for those people to be dealt with and handled, so it went quietly. They did it quietly because there was money from the Biden administration to get those people in. These people are just walking across the border, and you're going to have to deal with it, just like Eric Adams.
No one raised a single question. And you know why? Because they had federal dollars attached to them. What I'm simply saying is that if we're going to have real equity and parity in this country, we have to make sure that our policies reflect true equity and that they're consistent. So thank you all very much.
You would not turn buses around there?
115 and all.
So there you have it. Brandon Johnson. What his name? Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson. And tap dancing. Da da da. I love saying that. He's tap dancing. Da da da. So yeah. So there you have it. Brandon Johnson not really being forthcoming with the people in reference to what's really going on. People, they're saying tents, electricity is being put in buildings. Nobody knows, what's happening. Tents are being put in. Nobody knows what's happening. And he won't answer these questions. And again, and he's got these pastors behind him, who's, the black elites and so on. These people are woke and unbelievable. So that's going to be it for me in this video. Let me know what you think. And please like, share, and